once upon a time, in the 1200s to be more precise, Europe is divided into three major classes. There's the clergy, the nobility, and the peasants. Now the clergy tells you what God wants you to do. Nobility tells you what they want you to do. And as a peasant, you don't have too much of a choice but to just do it. And in the 1200s, into this system, a completely new class is born. The merchants. And what sets the merchants apart is that they look at human beings and they realize we are no one specific thing determined on the moment of our birth, but we are what we do. And in fact, inside each and every one of us lie the talents, the skills, and the knowledge that is necessary to create a world that would be far more equal and fair than the one that exists. And so this new class, it cuts itself off of this old system. It takes personal responsibility for its own well-being, and it starts to create a better way. Not to resist or fight this old system, but to make it irrelevant. And it is in this world, in the legacy of this dream, that all of us live today. This is where my story begins. So in 2015, I graduated from Tartu University, and I did my BA on Finnish and Estonian language. And as a secondary course, or a minor, I guess, I took social pedagogy, and I absolutely fell in love with the concept and the field. So it only made sense to me that when I graduated, I would go into my MA in Tallinn University. And so I left all my friends behind. I moved to this city and I enrolled into the MA program of social pedagogy. And I also got a job at a place that wasn't a very good fit for me. It wasn't fulfilling me creatively, it wasn't giving me a sense of purpose. And also I was living in a dormitory room, like a very small place. The dorm at the time was a place where a lot of people lived together, feeling rather lonely, I would say. At least that's how it was for me. I ended up in a place where I didn't have time, I didn't have money, I didn't have friends, I didn't have a social network. Obviously didn't have a girlfriend at the time. And about 4 months of this, I was drinking quite heavily. It was about 1.5 liters of red wine every single evening. And I remember feeling drunk. I could kind of forget about the whole thing and just be, I guess, without any worries. And in the morning the hangover would be so rough that I didn't have to think about the job and the emptiness of it. But this went on for a few months, yeah, and then I got pretty suicidal, and I figured I'm gonna do it in the dorm room. It's like, I even figured out how to do it. I figured I'm gonna hang myself. And at that time, there was really only 2 possibilities. That either my mom would find me, or the administrator of the dorm would find me at this one. So, being there, with those thoughts and with that plan, a friend called me and asked me out. And he told me of this place called Olde Hansa.
You haven't gotten a taste yet? Well then here. Came here with the boat then? How did you fly here?
With the boat.
Oh, alright. The old school way.
By Dragon.
Yes.
He told me that people like me are there and they get to use their potential and their talent and their expressiveness in a completely unique way. And I remember thinking to myself that the rope will always be a plan B. So I decided I would take the leap of faith. And I wrote Olde Hansa a letter explaining who I was and that I want to work there. And they invited me in for an interview. And lo and behold, I was hired. And after a year in the service of the wealthy merchant, they dubbed me the master of a guild. They gave me my medieval nickname, which is Cedric Stimmlich. And they also gave me a very nice silver ring to go with it. But in Olde Hansa, I also met with two very important people in my life, Ivar and Koit, with whom we started our medieval tours, the Tales of Reval. And it was at that moment that the journey of Cedric as a storyteller began. Cedric is just a way of being for me, much like my own character. I don't really attach myself to like a certain idea of who I have to be, but I just am. But with Cedric, I also am, but in a different way. I very purposefully summon Cedric to do what I need to do, and I think the costume is a very large part of what sort of brings him to life. And if I think, could I be Cedric Stimmlich, Hansa merchant and storyteller extraordinaire, without the costume? I probably could, but it wouldn't feel the same. All it takes is for you to put on a cape and voila, you're a superhero. And I feel that is spot on. It is so accurate, and it's what we found as well when we started these tours, that if you show up in a costume, then by default, to the eyes of the observer, you're already a professional. And it really works when you think about it. When you would put on like a green reflector vest and a helmet and run up to somebody and say, listen, you have to come with me right now, they would probably follow you, because that's the power of the costume. So this character of Cedric, it belongs in the medieval context in which it was created. And so, as Cedric, either in Olde Hansa or on the street, I have a purpose. And that purpose is to sort of be this medieval guy who will surprise you from so many angles, and who will take you on this fantastic journey and paint this image of whatever story I'm telling in your head, and really get you going with the emotions that are in it. And I realized this is what I do best. This is what I know how to do intuitively. I couldn't explain how I do it, but I just know how to do it. And Cedric sort of symbolizes that for me. And I exercise that when I'm telling stories, or when I'm still actually working, that 2021 at least. And it was something that Ivar said to me once that really got a hold on me, which was that the only way to live an authentic life is to provide value unique to your being. And for me, that value is making people feel a certain way. And Cedric is the tool, the persona, the mask, the character through which I convey the emotion of a certain sense of pride that you have discovered telling, a positive emotion, because all the stories are quite funny, and a feeling of understanding, like emotionally, that you get something, you understand what it's all about. So this is what I use Cedric for, why he is necessary.